box being delivered to my house today that has something from Sephora. I don't know how I just came across this information, but there is this color of Clinique Almost lipstick that they used on Arwen in all of the Lord of the Rings films that is like a known fact on the internet. And I was like, obviously I'm ordering this. It looks like a really nice color. It's called Black Honey.
So it still exists like all these years later.
Yeah, I think like it's still popular because it's known that they used it on Liv Tyler.
Oh my gosh. Incredible. Yeah. I'm trying to think of even what her face looked like. I don't remember her like looking like she had makeup on. She just was like that effortless, perfectly made up, not made up.
That is, I think, the point of it and why I wanted it. This is gonna be like a nice natural lip color because me and Liv Tyler look so similar. We're both pale with brown hair. Okay,
I think you have similar features. Like you look a lot more like Liv Tyler than I look like Liv Tyler.
I've got the two basic facts, so I hope I'll let you know how it goes.
I love it. It. It's amazing.
No, totally natural segue here. You know who really figured out how to do her hair and makeup over the course of several seasons? Betty Suarez of the show Ugly Betty.
What a segue. So I was going to wear my contacts tonight and I was like, I literally can't. We're talking about Ugly Betty.
No,
I have
that would have
to
been
wear
very
my glasses.
disappointing.
I know. It's I love this show so much. It was so fun revisiting it.
So wonderful. Like every episode is a little heartwarming, a little hilarious, a lot hilarious. Oh, yeah. I love it so much.
So fun. I don't remember a lot about watching it in high school. I think we were like maybe in our junior year. I know we both were watching it like week to week and then talking about it. And I remember really liking it, but I don't remember like it being like a cultural zeitgeist, but I guess it was. Yeah. Maybe just not in our school.
Well, that feels totally right.
Yeah.
To me.
Our like small hick school in Western Massachusetts.
Well, it wasn't for them. It wasn't for them. Yeah, I don't remember it being big at all. I also don't remember much about watching it, but I do remember us being the only people talking about it.
That's what I thought. But then looking back and reading articles about it, it was like the thing of the time and won awards. And yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I guess we were like a lot less plugged into things outside of our immediate sphere.
Okay, so we're talking about Ugly Betty. This show ran from 2006 to 2010. So it's an oldie but a goodie. Obviously, we're going to spoil parts of the entire series. I just have to say that. I know like in the past episodes, I've been really almost obnoxious about spoiler alerts. And I want to tell you why. I think we all have major spoiler trauma at some point. You must have some. I have one that was really major. I was flying home from who knows where. I don't even know where I was living at the time because I'm just that person. Where in the country was I living? I don't know. But these two men were in front of me talking about Stranger Things and said that someone died. And I had not gotten to that episode yet.
That's terrible.
And it was a devastating loss for me. I'm like, okay, if we're spoiling it for them and it's a 15-year-old show,
totally different.
Yeah. But
and
anyway,
we're giving the spoiler alert. Actually, we're still doing our due diligence.
I have to.
We'll try not to, or we'll try to mark spoiler alerts.
Yeah, they'll just be old shows that you've all seen and watched and maybe forgot about, and then are like, oh yeah. Yeah. Speaking of which, I do need to do a quick segue before we start talking about
I'm
Ugly
excited.
Betty. I watched Fast and the Furious this morning.
You did it.
I did it. It kind of just came across my desk and I was like, all right, I'll do it.
Came across it. Wait, tell me more about how Fast and the Furious came across your desk.
Basically, it just flows on. I think it somehow became like in my Netflix, you know, how they select a small fraction of the films and are like, suggested for you. I don't know. I must have watched like action movies lately or something. I don't know how the algorithm thought I'd wanted to watch Fast and Furious, but
I have two follow-up questions for you on this experience. One, was Paul Walker everything we remember him to be?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. In all facets. Gorgeous, not great at acting. There are just certain lines where he delivered where I was like, that is so Paul Walker. It was something like where he was like, you know, here's the way it's gonna be. And he was just like delivering the lines that are like so not believable of like him being a human man.
Why was he always like such a tough guy in the movies? Like he's just like a pretty person, but he's always so like pretty. Such a tough guy.
Yeah. It was very classic, but man, it was bad.
It was. Okay, so follow-up question number 2.
Yeah.
Did it make it seem even worse that Vin Diesel was almost cast as Aragorn?
I could not stop thinking about that while I was watching it and trying to envision a world where that would work. Could not. No mistakes were made there. I think I asked Chris at some point, I was like, if Vin Diesel was Boromir, who would be cast to play Faramir? Like who would be his dorky little brother? I don't know. I think he suggested The Rock. I was like, no. Maybe if you flipped it and The Rock was Boromir and then Vin Diesel was Faramir, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
It's getting to be a weird movie at this point.
Besides Paul Walker, like who is in Vin Diesel movies? Like they have like a huge crew in Fast and the Furious. Yeah. And I literally only remember the 2 of them. And Michelle Rodriguez.
She is such a millennial star girl. Yeah. Like she's in so many, I don't know what to call her, but she's in so many of those like 90s, early 2000s movie. And it made me, seeing her made me think of the movie Blue Crush. You remember that?
I was just thinking about that. Yes.
We have to talk about that. I haven't watched it in years, but that movie I feel like had a chokehold on me. I was like, I'm going to be a surfer and get like a football boyfriend. Win the surf competition. I don't go in the ocean. I'm so scared of the ocean.
You really are.
I don't know. I still was like, I'm going to do it. This just seems fun.
It feels like this needs to go on the podcast list. Blue Crush. So glad you followed up and you watched Fast and the Furious.
I regret it, but it was important work. But anyway, let's talk about Ugly Betty, shall we?
Yes, please.
All right. So, did you know that Ugly Betty was based on this big, huge telenovela from Colombia?
I was aware of that, yes.
The full name is Yo Soy Betty La Fea, which is I am Betty the Ugly One. Tough.
Awful.
Tough. I mean, yeah. So the show Ugly Betty was originally supposed to be called Betty the Ugly.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Mm-mm. That seems worse somehow, like way worse.
This is
right?
like our casual, chatty, millennial media podcast, and I'm like, I have to do a deep dive. I have to research everything. I found out a lot. The creator of Ugly Betty, the head writer, executive producer, Silvio Orta. I need to concentrate to say something nice. And
yeah, it's a very nice name.
Silvio Orta. Yeah, but you know how I am with names. It's bad. Anyway, he originally, he was interested in working on the project, and the ABC execs and him were going back and forth and discussing details, and he would say, you know, like, how about this? And they would be like, no. So one of the ideas he had was that Betty be an FBI agent.
Whoa.
Yeah. And he said that in an interview that there was just like radio silence on the other end, and he's like, or not. But yeah, he kind of wanted it to be almost like a procedural.
Huh. That would have been not as good at all.
No.
I'm just very confident.
No, that wouldn't have been good.
Perfect as is.
They basically were like, in Betty LaFay, like this, it works. People like it. People resonate with the story as is.
Yeah.
Let's not change it a whole lot. So they didn't.
Okay, wait. Let's go back to this FBI thing really quick.
Yeah.
I feel like they basically did that with Miss Congeniality.
Oh,
Same
yeah.
basic plot line
Yeah.
at a really high level.
Yeah.
It's another classic. Add
That
to the
is,
list.
I loved that movie.
It's
So good.
so good.
Let's talk a little bit more about Silvio Orta. So he was a first generation Cuban American. I'd already said this, but he was like the man basically behind Ugly Betty. So he was openly gay, and I read in a few different places that Justin's journey is loosely like autobiographical, which I think is so sweet.
I love that.
Yeah, so I think this was like a really special story for him. Unfortunately, he did pass away, I think 4 or 5 years ago. So that was really sad to learn. I was listening to some of his interviews, and he just seemed like such an interesting, like just like someone you'd want to hang out with, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And I also found out that his breakout role in Hollywood was for writing the screenplay for the 1998 hit, to me, movie, slasher movie called Urban Legend. Have you seen this?
I have not, but this does seem right up your alley.
I didn't see it. Like 1998 was too soon for me to be watching slasher movies. But as I was getting into my like FearNet, were you a FearNet person? This was like Comcast's little nook of like low budget, mostly like horror movies that you could stream for free.
That's fun.
And I remember, I think I actually rented Urban Legend though from Video Zone.
Video Zone. We didn't have Blockbuster, guys. We had Video Zone, and it was a magical place.
It was so good. So good. I loved Video Zone. We definitely did not appreciate it. And now that it's gone, it's sad. I want to tell you something that I think I've told you before. This is like a very abrupt segue, but did you know that Daniel Meade, the actor that played Daniel Meade, Eric Mabius, went to the same high school as my parents?
Okay, I knew he went there. I didn't know your parents went there.
To Amherst High?
Yeah.
Both of them? Yeah. Oh, yeah. They both grew up in Amherst. They met in high school. So my dad was like the TA for my mom's science class or something, which is like hard to believe because I don't know. Just my dad was not like a go-getter in school, but he was the TA for my mom's class, and he was like, "Hey, she's cute." And then, here we are a million years later.
I love it. Oh my gosh, that is amazing. So obviously they did not intersect times there, but how cool.
No, yeah, I don't know exactly how the ages lined up, but I remember I was a huge Ugly Betty fan growing up, which we've established, and I was a huge Daniel fan, and I would just talk about it, I guess, because my aunt at one point was like, "Oh yeah, the Mabiuses. I think I babysat for them." I was like, "What?"
Wait, this is blowing my mind right now. This is amazing.
Yeah. And so he won most dramatic guy. That was his superlative, which, fitting. And I want to talk about your superlative because you won one. And it was really cute.
We both won superlatives in high school.
Mine is not cute. It's sad because now I can't even run a mile. I was voted most athletic. Okay. I used to be fast and be able to move, and now I'm like a chronic pain-ridden postpartum Barbie who just like sits on the couch and that's it.
Wait, I love that you're the Barbie version of this though. That feels right. I can support that.
Postpartum Barbie. Yeah, that's me when I'm like Barbie. Try to like brush my hair and like my little wispies are like not today. I laugh. Anyway, you were voted best to take home to mom.
I was. Me and your cousin.
My cousin Shay. Yeah. Which a wholesome twosome.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember we did like a super cringy photo shoot for the yearbook. We were
Ugh.
like holding hands and skipping down the hallway or something because that embodied that superlative in our minds. It's rough. It's a really rough one.
Okay, so for me, they wanted me to do like wear football gear, and for the my male counterpart, because obviously it had to be one male and one female for every superlative.
Always.
Yeah, so he had to wear like, I don't know, probably field hockey, because that was like a skirt, so it's really funny. And I
Ugh.
was like not into it, which I kind of regret. Like I remember being like, I don't really like, I just want to stand here. I don't want
Yeah.
to dress
Good
up and
for
do anything
you.
goofy. Yeah, I guess. But also then I think like I just in the picture, like, you know how like in high school I was like often like a little bit angsty. I think I just
We
looked
all
like
were.
angsty and
Yeah.
uncomfortable. Oh yes, high school, that's true. I was an angsty teenager. Okay. Breaking news. So let's talk about the pilot. So this aired September 28th, 2006. And the first thing I thought when watching the pilot, especially rewatching the pilot, was holy crap, this reminds me so much of The Devil Wears Prada.
Yeah. There are some real parallels between the two. Like
Yeah.
real. And I know you're gonna share a fun fact that is like my favorite parallel now.
Wait,
You don't have to share it right now.
what is it?
About
What is my fun fact?
The Devil Wears Prada on Broadway.
Oh yeah. That also, I just like, while looking up things about the show, came across that it is now a musical, and Wilhelmina Slater, who's played by, hold on, this is gonna be like too hard for my brain to make these jumps. Okay. Vanessa Williams, right? Plays
Yes.
Wilhelmina Slater, and she will be playing, so many names for my neurodivergent brain to remember, who is the boss lady.
Meryl Streep's character, and I cannot think of
Are we here again? Oh no. Miranda Priestley.
the devil
Wow.
herself.
That hurt. And also, like, I have no problems with her character as an adult. Like, pretty much zero problems.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree
Right?
with that. Yeah.
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 Anyway,
Mhm.
I'm like, she is just a boss, amazing, creative, strong woman. Love her.
Yes.
Huge fan.
Yes.
Huge fan.
Agree. And now Vanessa Williams will be here, and it's perfect because
I
Wilhelmina
love that
Slater,
casting.
Miranda Priestley,
Oh,
kind of the
they're
same.
just like, you know,
Yeah. One is just the soap opera version of the other one.
totally. I think that casting is just chef's kiss. Love it. Love
Yes.
that. But one thing I thought that was funny rewatching the pilot was they're both about being an assistant in the fashion industry, right? And kind
Yeah.
of being like a fish out of water. Like, I would say the Andy in The Devil Wears Prada is not quite
Mhm.
as like out of place as Betty is.
Yes.
But like very similar, right? Betty never has the overnight makeover where suddenly she shows up in full Chanel and has fashion sense all
The
of a
best
sudden.
bangs that have ever been in a movie.
The best bangs. Oh my gosh, incredible. All of her outfits after that, I just was like, oh, she gets it now.
Yeah.
She gets it. She has arrived. But the like similarities were really funny. Just, for the record, The Devil Wears Prada came first. But I thought it was really funny that even the song that plays at the end of the pilot in Ugly Betty, which is Suddenly I See by KT Tunstall.
That's a name I haven't heard for a while.
What a jam, is also like in the, I think is it the makeover montage in The Devil Wears Prada? Like one of those.
I don't
One of
remember
the-
The
it might have-
Devil Wears Prada well enough.
It's either that montage where she's like suddenly fashionable, or I think it's the one where it's showing like all of the modelly kind of people, and then like keeps breaking to like Andy just doing her like normal girl stuff. Like in Ugly Betty and The Devil Wears Prada, eating a bagel is like the most normal girl thing you can do.
Carbs.
Like eating a bagel with cream cheese is just heinous to the fashion industry, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it is not as though diet culture and body
Ugh,
shaming is over.
no.
However, I would say that the obsession with carbs was really something else in the 90s.
That's
Like,
so
that was
true.
the thing. Bread was the enemy.
That's so true. Yeah, bread is not my enemy.
Bread is my best friend.
Is it? I, I'm like, hey.
You made that sad. No,
Sorry.
no, you are my best friend, but I do love bread. I love bread and bread products and bagels. I love bagels.
Yeah, I'm a big bagel fan. I don't appreciate the bagel slander in either of
This is so
those
much.
shows.
Yeah.
It is a lot. And they also like film it in a way that makes like I guess eating a bagel is kind of disgusting. Like in general. It's like you have to like bite it, rip it. There's always like cream cheese, kind of happening every
Oh my gosh. Can I tell you like the most random story?
Yeah.
The first time I ever had a bagel with cream cheese was with you and your mom.
What?
Like that was like not a combination of things that had ever been introduced to me. And we were probably like 11 or 12. And I think we went to Brugger's Bagels in Northampton. I don't know what else we were doing that day. Probably an activity of yours that I was just tagging along with because I feel like that's how I spent my weekend.
That's cute.
It was cute. And that was the first time I ever had a bagel with cream cheese. Changed my life.
Oh, Brugger's Bagels. I mean, that's not a bad
Yeah.
place to start. Okay, to put a bow on our little introductory segment here, KT Tunstall. I don't know why I have to say it like that. KT Tunstall. She is going to be touring this March in the U.S. That's right, folks. Buy your tickets.
Does she make new music still?
I don't know.
Has she made any more than the 2 songs I'm probably familiar with?
I mean, yeah, more than 2. I did Google, was she a one-hit wonder? And I was told no. And it seemed like maybe she was a 2-hit wonder. Very talented.
I think so. I think,
Yeah.
yeah.
But I don't know. I only know that one, the Suddenly I See, and then the one that's like, woohoo,
Yeah.
I'm not
I've
going to
got
sing any
it.
more than that. Well, I feel like I've talked a lot about why I don't think I've even talked about why I love Ugly Betty. I think I've just been like, I love Ugly Betty. Let me briefly talk about some of the things I love, and then I would really like to hear what you enjoyed about it.
That sounds great.
I love the campiness. We've established that we are both big camp fans. This kind of like over the top. Like it's not a fantasy show by any means, but it certainly stretches the realm of what could happen to one normal person, right? An average person. What could they go through in a day? We're going through all of it. And then I really love like the relationships, the characters. We talked about the villains being incredible in this show. And the other big thing that still really gets me is when I was in high school, pretty much right when the show came out, I wanted desperately to have Betty's job. I wanted to work, not necessarily to be like a grunt, but I wanted to be in that like assistant role at a magazine, not a fashion magazine.
Oh, yeah.
But I wanted to be working and writing at a magazine. So she was like living my dream. Same thing with The Devil Wears Prada, that like, you're starting from the bottom, but you've got dreams. And if you just can get through this job, then you'll make it as a writer. And it just was like literally right there when I wanted it. And so now it still brings me back to that feeling.
Yeah.
It's just so sad now of like hope that like, that could still be a thing. I still have writing dreams, but they're very different. I'm not going to go work as an assistant at a magazine.
Yeah.
Would not be good at it, but would like to be published someday.
Yeah. That I think is going to happen. I believe that you will be published someday.
Yes. Thank you.
That is
Thank you. Okay, I'm
spot
looking
on.
at my I have wispies at all angles. I tell you, this postpartum hair regrowth is Wild. But anyway,
I
thank
have
you.
heard that. Yes.
Thank you for saying that. Future published author. I just have to write something first.
Yes.
Tell me why you
Yes.
like Ugly Betty.
I'm totally with you on the camp. Like, I love that this was a primetime soap opera, but like truly made with those soap opera roots. So when I was revisiting episodes for the pod, I watched the pilot, and then the next one I watched was like season 1, episode 14. And, you know, there's 4 large, long seasons of this show. I could not get over how much had happened in those 14 episodes. Like, at that point, Alexis was like revealed. We've already done our spoiler alert, but Daniel's former brother had come out as a transgender woman, and that was like a big lead up through so much of the season. Oh my gosh, I can't even remember what else, but there was just so much that had happened in that short period of time, because this show was never boring. Like, never slowed down the absolute insanity that happened over the course of just a couple episodes. So I love the camp, just like you. And I also love that there is something good to every character on the show. And like, consistently, you know, you talked about the lovable villains, and they truly are, but it's hard to almost term them as villains, because there are so many sweet moments that every single one of them has throughout the show, without, and I really appreciate this, without having to do this big character arc where they like start out evil and then by the end they're good. Like, they all stay who they are. Like, Wilhelmina, even as we get to know her and we like see her do some sweet things and see her be human, like, even in the series finale, like, her and Mark still like make jokes about Betty's weight, which is not good, and I am not supporting that. That's no. But like, they're still like, they didn't like just become these magically nice people. Like, in the, like, for big picture important things, you can see they have evolved. You can also see some of it was like already there from the beginning, and I just love that they get to be who they are. They're still good people, and it's everyone. I can't think of a single villain in that show who was a straight up villain with no redeeming moments or qualities.
That's a really good point. I do have a segment later called Is This Character a Villain?
Oh, good. I can't wait.
It might be this. Well, this will be a 2-part. I don't think we said that. 2-part Ugly Betty discussion, because obviously we cannot not ramble.
we have thoughts
about. We have a lot of thoughts on Ugly Betty. And I think that teases out more of the like side characters, some of the ones that are less well developed. But I agree, the core characters are all so real, feeling so well rounded, and all have, even Betty. Like, I don't think I viewed television and movies in a much different way in high school, where you're just like, the protagonist is right all the time. They can do no wrong. Ugly Betty is the perfect person. But then you rewatch it as an adult, and you're like, she has flaws. She does things that I'm like, ooh,
yes,
you know, not great.
and I think that our main characters should be able to do that. I like to see whole humans. Yeah.
Totally agree. And I think going into that further, like, something that I really love throughout the entire show is the relationships, and not just the romantic relationships, like, of all kinds, the family relationships, the friendships that like evolve into this family type bond. They're just so rich and like fun to watch.
They're actually, I would argue, the romantic relationships in the show are, at least of the relationships, the worst relationships.
Yeah, actually, I agree. But
I will get deeper into that. I have so many thoughts, but yeah, the family, the Suarez family is just so top notch.
Before we go even further, I have to tell you that my grandfather watched this show.
I don't think I knew that. That is amazing.
Grandpa Charlie, he loved TV. I think I talked to him before. He's a big TV guy. He watched Ugly Betty, and the funniest thing, we didn't talk about it much. He wasn't like a big chatty kind of guy, but I remember when the 4th season Betty starts to get like a bit of a glow up, right? She's get like sleeker glasses, sleeker hair. She grows out her bangs. She's dressing a little bit more, I don't know what the word is, simpler, like less colors, less
more mature, maybe.
Yeah, just a little bit more like socially acceptable for, whatever. So my grandpa could not accept that was the same actress. He was like, nope. So they changed the actress for the 4th season. I was like, no, they didn't. Nope. She just stopped wearing her wig and
look at that.
Took
different.
off the braces. No, adamant. He's like, they changed the actress. There's no way. There's no way.
Oh.
So sweet. He was like, well, he's like, I don't know why they changed it. I like the first girl.
Well, props to America Ferrera.
Oh, yeah.
In her least stylish sense.
Yeah.
Grandpa Charlie loved her.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And then the other family member of mine who loves the show is my dad, Clark.
Love that. Love it.
He loves the show, and he'll still make references. I think he really resonated with the father. So that's like the Suarez family, right, is the father, Ignacio, and then there's Hilda and Betty, the 2 daughters, and I have a sister. And I think he loves like the kids stay in the house for, like, he would just have us live there forever and ever and ever. And he also cooks, which is something Ignacio in the show is just always cooking. There's so many scenes where he's just in the kitchen cooking. So my dad will like make references when he's like, if I call him on the phone, he's like, oh, I'm in the kitchen like Mr. Suarez, which is so cute.
That is amazing. Also, they both rock a great mustache.
That's true.
They are like very similar.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like just similar vibes. I love it.
I would say so. This came up with another show I was watching. I was watching Abbott Elementary, which is a show that I want to talk about more in the future. But it made me think of this other part of Ugly Betty, of this concept of just like going into the office. That is something that I think I have this unrealistic fantasy about. I've only ever worked in healthcare where I kind of will go into office. I have appointments. I'm always like very busy. It's not this like free form, you have some tasks you have to do, but you chat and you, obviously it's not a realistic portrayal of anything in the show, but I think I've always wanted that kind of work culture where you like have these friends and you have these like frenemies and there's just all these dynamics and you just go to the office and it's just this place where things are happening. I don't know. My place has been like the nursing or, just like it's totally different. Like work. I don't know. There's something about it.
I have had more traditional workplaces pre-pandemic when everything went virtual or hybrid. And I mean, I could say that like some days are kind of like that. Like some days you're interacting with people, you're hanging out a little bit. People might go to happy hour after work, all sorts of stuff like that. But I would say overall, I mean, I have made some really solid, strong, amazing friendships from those type of work environments. But it was more like we would look back and call it trauma bonding. Like things were so bad that we had to. I haven't had that like very positive, like what you're describing.
Yeah, which
lovely.
I guess like the workplace was not positive for Betty.
Right.
For much of it, she didn't have a lot of allies, and then her and Daniel do form this close bond. But yeah, I don't know. There's something about the like having a work bestie, which I've had a few jobs where I've become close with people, but it's been pretty rare when I've like really had the time to get to know people, or maybe also committed to like outside of work time doing.
I've had work besties. I would say I have like at least one close friend I have kept from every single job I've ever had.
Nice. Yeah. That sounds like you. That's a very you thing. There's like these two parts of me, I think, where like this has been my entire life, where there's this like one part of me who wants one thing and this other part of me who wants the totally like opposite thing, where so in this case it's the one part of me that's like, I want to be in an office like with my friends and we're just hanging out and chatting. And then the other part of me is like, I want to work from home and never speak to anyone, not have to make a single phone call, not have to answer a single email. I just work on my computer. I do creative work. I submit it out to, the void, and then I get paid for it. That's the real me.
Sounds truly magical. May I introduce you to the worst of all worlds, in which I work from home, so I don't have human interaction, yet I am on calls all of the time, and it is not creatively fulfilling work.
Oh, no.
I didn't say not fulfilling if my boss is listening to this someday. I said not creatively fulfilling.
Yeah. Big caveat. I mean, yeah, that's not for me, but that's okay.
Is it for anyone? I don't know.
I loved also in the show the like literal physical setting, the mode office. It was so much fun.
Yes. I mean, and they changed it all the time. Like, I just think about that like main hallway right leading up to Amanda's desk, or like the main reception desk, and it's like always decorated differently.
Yes.
And it's like very cool. Everything's open, and it's like such a dynamic space. Everybody loves talking about the West Wing walk and talks, because they would like, that's like just huge in the West Wing. Everybody's walking and talking everywhere, and the camera follows them. But they can really do that in the space in mode too. Oh, I love it.
Yes. It's such a fun office. I think it really brings a lot to the show, and so much of the show is literally just like around the mode and mead building, which I think is so fun. So I want to transition now to a little game, because apparently I love games. I'm all about the games and putting you on the spot.
Love that.
I want for us, but this isn't just you. I haven't decided this. This will be like our discussion, and then we're going to come to a conclusion together about Endgame, which romantic connections we think should have been, when the series came to an end, this was the romantic partner that they were involved with, or no romantic partner, which ends up being the case with Betty. She doesn't really end up with anyone, but there is the suggestion that her and Daniel are now romantically entangled.
I imagine Betty's going to be one of these, so I will save my thoughts for the Betty.
Okay. Yeah, let's do a warm-up one. Yeah, we'll circle back to that. So Hilda, she has a lot of really interesting relationships throughout the show.
She does.
So we have Justin's father, Santos, who has an interesting character arc. I feel like they had him do this like rapid, almost like 180, where he was not really super supportive of Justin in certain ways, mostly in the way that he presented as like a stereotypical, possibly queer child. And he wasn't super comfortable with the more feminine presentation or interest that Justin had. He was like, let's go play sports and do things that quote unquote boys do. And then there was that one episode where he just is like, someone calls Justin a homophobic slur on the train, and he just like is like, no, I'm going to defend my child's honor, and really steps up to the plate. It's just like, I accept you for who you are now. Which I think was like a beautiful moment, but was also like a little bit abrupt. I don't know how you felt about that.
It definitely was abrupt, but I also like that they didn't like drag it out, this whole like, oh, I like Justin's gonna do this to bring his dad around, or like other people have to do this. I think there's something real to like showing the like, especially then and certainly now today, like kids, and I think especially boys at younger ages, like really have these expectations, and some people aren't okay with that. And it's really nice, like now there are some TV shows like Schitt's Creek, like Dan Levy, who created the show with his dad, has said like there is no homophobia in Schitt's Creek. Like I don't want to see that, so they don't have the plot lines like that. And I think I've read a lot. It's nice to have balance. Like it is sometimes nice to show what a lot of people went through, and sometimes it's nice to ignore it. And I kind of almost feel like they hit both here.
Yeah, that's so true. I think Ugly Betty is not a watch if you are looking for the like positive side of like so many of like these beautiful diverse themes. It's showing, I think, what's trying to show more of a real life kind of like what people go through, and that can be really triggering. But yeah, I could see how it's a show that brought a lot of amazing representation and was really groundbreaking for people in the queer community. There's just, and also just having like a racially diverse cast is incredible. This is a big sidebar. But it definitely is not a show, like Schitt's Creek, for example, where it's just like we're just going to have this be like a really like warm hug of a show. There's things that are very hurtful. And typically I feel like they're presented in a way where it's showing that like this is a hurtful thing that happened to a character rather than showing like this is an acceptable way to act, which like, you know, some shows at the time are just like, this is just, you know, this is what you get, you know, for being different or, you know, have like dressing differently or acting differently. Or I feel like this show is more like shedding a light on like, we are all different.
And
that's a beautiful thing. Anyway, Hilda.
Back to Hilda's love life.
Hilda and Santos. Okay, so as we know, he gets murdered in the show. When I was going through the love interest, not the only love interest who dies or has died. Right. So this is, you know, just par for the course for this type of show. That was a really, really devastating episode. Like that, the way that ended. Oh my gosh, I just got chills. That was so well done. It was very upsetting. And then they do the whole series intro where which you were like totally like you thought he was back, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I think I remember that.
Yeah, devastated me at the end.
Rip the rug out. I don't know why, but that one didn't. I think because, okay, so I think I didn't believe that he was back because the way the season ended, it was so visceral that I was like, there's no way that Betty just told Hilda, like, hey, he's shot and could be dying, that she had that reaction. I was like, Betty just told her, like, he's dead. I'm so sorry. Like, that was the reaction she had. Like, that pure, like, absolute, like, my world is crushed. So I feel like when I saw that, I was like, this is something else.
Yeah, no, it's fair. You were right.
I was right. Anyway, that episode that was really well done. And I'm sure I had my doubts, like, but I think I just like still was like, I don't know. Anyway, obviously she couldn't have ended up with him. He was gone. I don't know if he would have been the right choice, but then her next romance is Coach Diaz, where she is the other woman. And he is not great.
No.
Not great. Very cute. Not great.
Sure.
I don't want to be shallow about
I'm holding a grudge.
Not a good match. I think we can both agree pretty quickly. Not it.
Yeah.
Not it. And then we have Archie Rodriguez, the councilman.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Played by Ralph Macchio.
Right. Karate Kid, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that it was a cute storyline. I enjoyed it. I totally agree with it ending.
Yeah.
He just, you know, it was like an opposites attract kind of thing, or where she like unexpectedly was attracted to him, and then was into it for a while, but just too much of a mismatch personality-wise, lifestyle-wise.
No grudge held there. That's fine. It's fine. It just wasn't meant to
cheat on him.
No grudge held against him.
Right. I mean, he didn't find out that part. But yeah, that wasn't great. And then the person who she ends up with, Bobby Tolercio, I remember really being into this character in high school, obviously. He was like meant to be like for the high school girl, right? Like the bad boy.
I mean, he is for the 35-year-old girl on this podcast.
We're here for it. I think I'm fine with it. I don't know. I think I'm fine. Yeah, I think I'm fine with that. So, in conclusion of our first round of Endgame, we agree. We agree.
No,
All right. We're good. So let's tackle the big one now. Betty.
Okay.
So she ends up with this ambiguous, like, I'm choosing myself going to London, but then also Daniel possibly realizing he has feelings that are more than friendship. They keep it pretty vague, but also like not vague enough for us to not know that that's where we've been led to.
Yes, but I don't know. I think it is vague in this nice way where I do think it's open to interpretation. Like they have had such a solid friendship for years. Betty's her independent person. Like there was no big kiss at the end, which I'm so thankful for. That would have been so cheesy.
Okay, so she starts with Walter. He is like the definition of a wet blanket and is clearly there just to show like Betty's growth, right? Of like where she's starting and where she ends up.
Yes.
He's rough. Okay. Then Henry, which I think like we have a lot of thoughts on.
I'm gonna wait till the end of the list for Henry.
And then we get to Gio, who I have thoughts on as well. And then there's kind of like the minor. So after things don't work out with Henry and Gio, after like a whole lot of hubbub that, you know, a lot continues in further seasons, then we have like Betty's little like, I'm a single girl, maybe I'm gonna date era, where she has her little fling with her neighbor, Jessie.
Yeah.
The rocker, which isn't like something really taking seriously. And same thing with Zachary Boole, the playwright. That one wasn't really a major. That was like, I think, one episode that he was in.
One or two.
Then we get to Matt, the millionaire, billionaire, really rich, secretly rich guy who she meets in her young editor's training initiative, Yeti.
Yeah. Okay, so hot take as a jumping off point. Every man that Betty dated in the show is trash. Absolute trash.
Yeah, no, I think that as like an overarching statement is fair and not the way that I felt watching it in high school.
I lived for Henry Grubstick.
Loved Henry.
My, like the crush that I had on Henry was intense.
It's hard for me to even, like, I know that you're going to slander him coming up and like, I don't think he's great. Let me put it out there. But, like, there's still part of me where I'm like, that's my boyfriend.
Like, that is who I thought I wanted to end up with, was someone
100%.
like Henry. Oh, my God. Yeah. Trash. He's also, he puts Betty through so much and, like, kind of pouts about the fact that he's putting her through all of this. And, like, he just had so many better decisions that he could have made. And also, like, okay, like, he's the first character we really see that, like, likes Betty for Betty besides Daniel.
Yeah, true.
Daniel is there the whole time for Betty. Like, even when he's mean to her in, like, the first episode, he still, like, notices Betty and likes her. But we'll get to that.
Yeah.
But, like, I get that he does have, like, I don't know, even, like, the things I used to think were really cute that he would do with, like, oh, God, I'm sorry in advance. But, like, that's just something I know. Like, now I'm like, oh, you're cringy. Go away.
Boy. Just because that's, like, a thing that I pulled out in the notes does not mean that, like, I think that it's cute.
Okay, good.
Okay. Want to clarify.
He, like, okay, you know what the problem is? Henry thinks he's cute.
Okay,
Henry thinks he is real cute and that he's, like, worth all this hubbub, and he is not, and, like, trash.
I was more in the like defending myself in the notes because we haven't talked about this. I was more saying, like, she starts saying it like all of a sudden and then is like catching herself as if it's just like it's just like so weird, as if it's just this thing where she's like crap, I said it again. Like, it's just something I know, like, I just can't get this guy out of my head. It's so like not realistic that you would just like parrot this thing.
Yeah,
like all of a sudden she's just like naming these facts, like, and then having to say his catchphrase. Like, I'm sure, I totally believe that Betty is someone who just knows the circumference of the earth and all these other obscure facts and like brings that like little hint of a know-it-all kind of energy to a conversation. But I don't believe that she would just like start being like, it's just something I know.
Yeah,
Because he said it one time.
I agree. I'm sorry I slandered you for a moment there. I didn't mean to. Okay,
Like,
so we both hate
out.
Henry now.
Yeah, yeah. Okay,
so much evolution.
I wouldn't say that I hate him.
Okay.
I'm not there yet. But I will say that I totally agree. I think his expectations of what he thought Betty should accommodate, and then like what she does accommodate in terms of him having, like he didn't, there's no like cheat, like he didn't cheat on Betty and then like impregnate another girl, but he got someone else pregnant and then expected Betty to just kind of get on board, and then also was like basically giving her ultimatums without saying like this is an ultimatum, but being like, if you want this to work, like you have to do it my way, like I'm going to. But I think it's presented in this way where he's like, I'm going to be there for my child. So it's like, how are you going to be like, oh, boo. And then you're going to be involved in your child's life. How dare you?
And simultaneously, while expecting Betty to put up with all of this, has that stupid, annoying jealousy of Gio the whole time, which was just like icky.
Yeah, I didn't love Gio because I think that was kind of like what we were meant to feel as like, high school girls watching this. Like he objectively is, I think, like not as like sneaky attractive. Like I feel like Henry is presented as this dork, but he's like a hot nerd. For sure. Yeah. Whereas Gio's kind of like this little, like, more like a gnat energy. He's kind of like annoying and short. He's shorter. He's just like always there. And he's like kind of mean to Betty too. Like, I was doing a deep dive on Reddit and people are very pro Gio on the Ugly Betty Reddit. No, I'm like a big Reddit person. Yeah. Really, like, you'd maybe fit in there. They're like very like against Henry, very like Gio's great. He pushes her, he challenges her to do better. He supports her no matter what and wants more for her. And
he wants more from her.
Yeah. Thank you. If I had to vote like who treated Betty better, Henry or Gio, I would say Gio. But
I think so. Yeah.
I don't think that the way Gio treated her was good.
I 100% agree with that. And like this whole idea that like he pushed her to experience more. No, in my head, like I do think that Betty's world expanded a little bit by her choosing to like explore things with Gio, even like being friends with Gio. Like I think that was just a little different for her, but I'm not gonna give him all the credit for that.
Yeah, no, I agree. And then let's get to Matt, because Matt, I think he's very vanilla.
I was just about to say he bores me.
Yeah. And I wouldn't say that there's a lot there. Like, he's definitely cringy too. I don't think he is like this perfect magical match for Betty. And then like when shit hits the fan, he just like goes bananas and is like, I'm gonna act like the spoiled rich brat that I was, initially presented as being like kind of grounded despite having been poured into all this money. And he just acts like such a brat. Granted, Betty legitimately cheats on him and he witnesses it.
Yeah.
That's rough. And then she lies. Well, she doesn't lie about it, but she like withholds that information. And I don't think that there's like a defense. Like, personally, like the relationship would be over for me at that moment.
Sure.
Would I then take a Nepo job and seek revenge? Probably not.
And I think because he bored me so much to start with, he feels like a plot device more than a romantic entanglement character. Like, he was just there to create conflict. And
Yeah,
I just never cared.
We kind of knew that it wasn't going to end up together, and I agree with you in that fact, because the way that they just like shipped him off unceremoniously, like they got back together, and I think that like Bahamas Triangle episode was really good. I loved that episode in a lot of ways. Poor Amanda, I kind of like forgot that she was like, for whatever reason, romantically interested in Matt.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, so that's
weird.
in that episode, like Matt basically chooses Betty over Amanda.
Yeah.
Anywho, then they get back together and they're like, have a little bit more plot, and then he just is like, I have to go to Africa. Bring water to the villages. I think that's like verbatim, like pretty
and like his delivery too, because again, he's so boring.
Yeah, really boring. So
yeah,
then we get to Betty being like, I'm not going to be with anyone. And then Daniel, like, as Betty's deciding to go to London, Daniel's like, yeah, maybe I do. Like, why do I care so much? Which I think what kind of bothered me a little bit, I wouldn't say that I'm like bothered by the possibility that they could be together, but I just am like, do we have to? Like, can't we just be like, I'm really sad that she's going because she was a huge part of my life. I grew so much because of her. I care about her so much as a friend. Like, we have to always be like, but I'm also in love with her,
Yes, we have to, because it's what I wanted. So we have to. Okay, all right. But hear me out.
Yeah, okay.
So I know that there's one way of looking at it, which is like Dale didn't really notice her until she got hot at the end.
Okay.
My argument is that Daniel noticed her from episode 1. Even episode 1, when he's trying to make her life miserable to get rid of her, there is at least one moment in that episode, and you see this in so many moments throughout the show, where you see Daniel notice something she's done and like smile a little bit. Like he appreciates who she is from the very, very beginning of that show.
Yeah.
In a way that like very few people had. And I think that their relationship, for wherever it ends up, developed in like such a beautiful way. And I think that he relied on her so much, but he was there for her really often. That was not a one-way street. Like, one of the episodes I watched is I think this was after the final Henry breakup, although it is really hard to keep track. And he has like been in the hospital, and his sister's still in the hospital, but he like plans that little funeral for Betty to like throw away all of her Henry stuff. Like,
oh yeah.
Right? And that's not rare. He gets her whole family plane tickets down to Mexico when her dad's got to go down to then re-enter the country legally. Like, there's like so much, like he is really there for Betty so many times. I'm for it. I am Team Daniel. I love how it ended. There you go. All my cards are on the table.
Okay. I think those are all very valid points. I will say also, in the telenovela, the reason why they left it there, one, because I think the show was canceled far before they were really ready to like tie all these plot lines together and give us any real sense of closure. But in the telenovela, they do get together and form a relationship. That's like a plot line. So that does happen. So, if we ever do a reboot or a movie, which everybody wants, but one thing I do want to read to you that you can either keep in here or not, is a Reddit comment that I think you're really going to appreciate. This is going to have swears. I've already sworn, I think, a couple times in this podcast, but here we go. All right. The title is, Can Henry die already? This is all in caps, okay? All in caps. This is on the Ugly Betty Reddit. The username is cheap-assistant-8554. All right. Are you ready?
I am so ready.
Oh, you're going to love this. When does he leave? Season 2, episode 18. I was so happy Henry was finally gone and Betty was with Gio. But then that son of a bitch came back and proposed. He's a cockroach. Why won't he just die already? Nobody likes you. Die. You make the show 50% worse.
That is poetry that captures all of my feelings now as an adult. Definitely not my feelings the first time I watched it. But also, this is a soap opera. People die
Yeah,
dramatically. Can you imagine how
right.
we would feel about Henry had he died earlier on in all of that? Like,
So
that would have
different.
been the way to go. Or even if he
Yeah,
had just moved away and stayed away. Like,
right. Like I don't even feel like that's like hateful being like you should die, just being like this is like a plot device that I need to
yes,
happen because you just will not stop coming back. I feel like if they
yes.
did kill him off though, it would end up being like kind of like what they did with Connor where it's like a fake death and he'll end up like
Yeah.
coming back
Uh-huh.
anyway.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
But yeah, I thought you'd appreciate that because that was obviously really over the top and
I loved it. Thank you for sharing that with me. Thank you for bringing that into my life.
I guess I agree. It's a really trash group for Betty to
They're
choose
like
from.
really
Um,
awful.
Daniel is by far the right choice, and I think I agree. I didn't fully appreciate how much he was there for Betty because I think the way that he's there for her is supporting her financially in a lot of ways. Like that's the way she gives him a ton of emotional support because that's like her way of like support, and he I don't think like is able to necessarily provide that degree of like pep talk and you're amazing and you're this you're that, but he's like I have certain assets like I am rich and I can buy your family first class plane tickets and like but just because he has money does not mean he needs to spend it in that way. Like he didn't need to have her entire family fly down there. He didn't need them to have like fly in first class. Like he's showing that he cares in this way that he knows how to express it. If you know what I mean.
Okay, I'm gonna argue. I'm gonna argue with you a little bit here. I think he's really supportive. Okay, so I'm thinking about like Betty's first fashion week, and she's like scrambling and she's frantic,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a really big week for Daniel, obviously, before even his sister reemerges as someone who's not dead.
Yeah.
Um, but he like takes a moment and he like takes her aside. He's like, "You're doing a great job. Like you deserve credit for this. You're doing like I think there's a lot of moments in that show if you look for them. I
Yeah.
think Daniel has like these bigger emotional crises that Betty helps him with, but
Sure.
I think he really has a lot of moments where he is like a really solid person in Betty's life and helping with Betty's development. And um I am a big Daniel fan.
I guess so. And I'm not a fan. I think there's just parts of his personality. I agree. I'm sure if I watched again through the lens of like Daniel not being like a whiny little brat, then I would
Watch it through the
appreciate
Sarah lens.
it. I think that is probably one of my biases is like when you're a little bit whiny and dramatic, like it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of like the like get a real problem thing, you know? Like
Yeah.
he's a very like first world problem kind of guy. And I think Betty calls him out
Yeah.
on that frequently. So I think it's
Yes.
just like a little bit like grating for me when it's like the things that he's struggling with. He has some real serious struggles that are very real, but then he'll also be like calling Betty and making her leave like her family Thanksgiving because he doesn't know what shirt color to wear.
Yeah.
Or like those are things that
Yeah.
stick out in my head where I'm a little bit like, okay.
Yeah.
But even when they were friends, he still was kind of taking advantage of her and like
Yeah.
being like really entitled with her time and like the access that he wanted to her.
Yeah. And there's like a power differential there. Like you could say
Yeah.
like, well, Betty should have set better boundaries, but like this is her
He was
boss and
literally
that's her
her boss. Yeah.
livelihood. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I guess in conclusion, once again, we agree. Daniel and the way that
The
the show
perfect
left it.
show.
I mean, pretty much. It's not perfect. It's not perfect, but they did a lot right. I think the writing in the show is incredibly well done.
Yes, I would agree. Very much agree.
All right. So I guess like that kind of washes a little bit of like who should Daniel have ended up with, but I do want to just like bounce through the names of like Daniel's romantic relationships because I think there's some like funny ones in there. So he starts, I think his first major one. So we know that he's like hooking up with Amanda, but very clearly
Yes.
like not interested. And that it's like really was like a triggering relationship for me. I feel like anyone was in that kind of like, not like you're being kept a secret, but like you're fulfilling a role that like you you want to be like the main person in the relationship, and you're just like kind of like in a lineup of other people. Been there, not fun. Felt for Amanda. She let that go on for a long time. It was hard to watch, but they have a nice like evolution of their relationship throughout the show.
They do. And at one point she thinks he's her brother, so
oh yeah. Classic.
They're not.
No, but yeah, they have a lot going on, of course. Like you said, a lot goes on in just like one single episode, let alone through the course of the 4 seasons that that went on. So then there's the Sophia Reyes thing.
Yeah.
We'll talk more about her later. Then I think it was where was Renee in this? Wilhelmina's sister. Was she before or after Molly?
Before. She's before Molly.
Okay. So yeah, Renee was like a weird little blip and like a pretty tough storyline to get on board with
but another great guest star.
Yes, great.
Gabrielle Union.
Wilhelmina like withholding meds for her own sister to have a mental breakdown. That was a tough one to try to get on board with. But anywho, then we get to Molly, and so this is another character, right? Where like, do you think that if Molly had not passed away, that her and Daniel would have just stayed together?
I think it's possible. They were pretty sweet.
Yeah.
They were pretty sweet together.
I think I like them together. I think that they would have. I think that in that case, like, I think they would have been together, and I think him and Betty would have just like remained platonic. I don't think he would have ever dug deep and realized his feelings for Betty. I liked them together. I thought they were a good match. I thought she challenged him in like the right ways. You know, she was very down to earth. Her whole character was about being down to earth, being like just like a normal
almost
gal.
like a little too much.
Yeah,
we get it.
Yeah, you're a chill girl. You're a cool girl.
Yeah,
but no, I liked her character. I still do.
Yeah,
and I think they were a good match. And that was really, really sad. That was a sad loss.
Yeah.
Okay. So then there was Ignacio, which I included him only because I want to talk about. Okay, I want to. So first, there was Betty's mom, Rosa. We never meet her. She's passed away from cancer before the time that we're in the show. Right? And then there was Elena, his nurse, which as a healthcare provider, I have problems.
Yeah.
You can't just be like fooling around with your patients.
No.
Under any circumstance. And she's like, there's a conversation where she's like, I've never felt like this before. And it's like, you still like, no.
Inappropriate.
No. Get someone else to do your job. Maybe call him back later, ask him out on a date. Anywho, I don't know. I wasn't really over the moon with her. But she is kind of left, I guess, as the like, maybe that's who he ends up with. And then there's this one little side character who I absolutely love. And I'm going to say this is who I wish Ignacio ended up with. And that is Jean, the pharmacist.
Jean was great.
I love Jean.
Yeah.
Oh my God. What a supportive random woman.
Yeah, she is
just like
not around for long, but she makes an impact.
Oh my gosh, just like so non-judgmental, and like it has this inside scoop, of course, because like all these absurd things happen where she just happens to know that like Hilda and Betty are both having these like simultaneous pregnancy scares, and she happens to be invited over for this Christmas Hanukkah.
Like she's just like there for it too. Like she's not fazed by it.
No, she's like so chill. She's not concerned about like any of the dynamics. She's like asking these questions that I feel like I just really respect how she's able to like skirt around like any sort of like bringing it up and like outing them. I just love Jean.
Jean was great. Jean was
love
great.
Jean. I wish that she had come back for more.
I do have a slight problem with your list of Ignacio's romantic partners, which is that you have left off the opportunity for us to talk about his immigration worker.
That was not a mistake. I wouldn't call that a relationship. I'd call that sexual harassment and coercion.
That was wild. That was, I think, one of the other things in my like pilot to episode 14 jump. I feel like she was in it, and like that was already going on.
Yeah, that was tough.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't even remember her name, but she was a
Was it?
memorable character.
I just remember Justin being like, she gave me $1 to call her grandma or something. And then Hilda says like something, and he's like, oh, who, grandma? She's like slapping him. Really cute. Really
Yes.
cute. Shall we continue? Do we need to do more of these?
Okay, I just want to say and maybe we'll have an opportunity to talk about this in episode 2,
Yeah.
but I love Connor and Wilhelmina so much.
Yeah.
Like that is where you really see the human side to Wilhelmina while
Yes.
still getting to be herself.
Yes.
Connor is also a totally wacky character and plot lines as befits a soap opera, but is like so supportive. I love Wilhelmina and Connor.
Okay. Yeah. I have like one small like, am I fully like 100% behind them? Because I agree. I think they are a fantastic match. What I don't like is that, and they do kind of address this, where he steals money from the thing that she has worked her
That's true.
entire life and is dedicated and devoted her entire life to, right? He's the first time that she considers having any sort of any part of her life be not about mode, right?
Right.
And he basically destroys that and then is like, but like, hey, come with me and just like, let's just be together. And like, she's like, no, which I totally respect that she was like, no, like, and calls him out being like, this was my life and you ruined that. So like, I'm not just going to go with you. And like, she chooses mode basically over Connor. And obviously they reconcile in the end. But that was a little bit like that was a very large character flaw, you know, to just be like, he's great. He's in prison for the remainder of the relationship.
Right, so like he gets punished for it. And also Wilhelmina did like some straight up evil things.
Oh yeah.
Throughout the show. So like
she should be in jail.
For her, I'm fine with, I mean like
for sure. That's true. She doesn't have moral high ground.
Steals a dead person's sperm.
Right.
She has Mark beat her up so that Bradford will leave Claire. And like that's just, I'm just like skimming the surface right now.
Yeah. Those are just like what comes off the top of your head. It's true. She truly does not have moral high ground. So perhaps you're right. I think it just that like them as a match, like he destroyed like the one thing she cared about. Like that would be like, I don't know what the equivalent would be for her doing that to him, but that felt like
fair.
Why would that doesn't feel like love.
I'll allow it.
Thank you.
I'm gonna live in my fantasy world where maybe he didn't do that and everything's great.
Ugh, that wouldn't be Ugly Betty, right?
No.
Here for the drama. Anyway, we're going to be talking more about Ugly Betty in part 2 next week. What are we going to be talking about? I'm not sure, but it's going. I think we're going to talk a little bit more about like some specific episodes. I think it'll be a little bit shorter and maybe less rambly. I don't know. Probably not.
Tune in to find out.
All right. We'll see you there.